Happy Friday. Welcome into Valley Vision. I'm Abby Alonzo, Joe Mitchell on the sticks. We have a loaded show, a little bit of a different show today, kind of a new structure we're testing out. So I'm going to give you a quick recap on what's going on around LSU sports. Then we're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to put two really cool guests on that purple couch over there, and we're going to chop it up about the game this weekend. Super excited to have this conversation. We've got Bryce Koon from 24/7 Sports and Trey Gallman, who is a musician but former LSU football player. So we've got all of the perspectives coming in for this preview against Arkansas today. I'm super pumped, but before we get there, make sure you hit that sub button. We're doing really cool things, but we need the support to grow and to make sure that you guys get this kind of content all the time. Hit the sub button, support us. We appreciate it. I'm going to start off with a Greg Brooks update. We know that he was suffering from vertigo, or what he thought was vertigo, and he complained about it last Wednesday. They got an MRI, and it came out that it was a brain tumor. He had emergency surgery on Friday. They were able to remove the tumor, but they are awaiting the biopsy results. I know Brian Kelly visited him on Sunday, said that they weren't able to have a lucid conversation because he was highly sedated, but he did tell Coach Kelly before he went into surgery that he has every intention of playing again this season. I don't know the turnaround after you have brain surgery, but I think that speaks volumes to his character. It tells you exactly why he's a captain on this team because, I mean, he's facing a life or death situation here, and he has every intention of coming back to help the team out, which I personally, as an LSU fan and just somebody who we've met Greg, we've talked to Greg, we've interviewed Greg, I was moved by that. I know that the team will be wearing number 3 stickers on their helmets this weekend for Greg, and he actually did stand up yesterday with some assistance. So these are all good updates. We will continue to pray for Greg. You're in our thoughts and prayers, GB. I know you have taken the college football world by storm because the way that the LSU fan base, not just the LSU fan base, but the entire college football realm has gotten behind you regardless of what colors they wear, I think speaks to the importance of sports and the way that they're able to move people into action. And it's really touching to see this. So again, I think it was a God moment that they found the tumor when he was complaining of vertigo. We're glad that they removed the tumor completely, waiting for those biopsy results. But our thoughts and prayers are with you, Greg. Okay, we'll switch it. That was a little bit somber, but we do have some good news. LSU soccer turned things around last night. They upset number 22 Georgia in their second SEC game of the season. Remember, they came off that hard-fought loss against Ole Miss. They were looking for revenge. They didn't get it. It came down to one goal, but they turned things around last night. Beat Georgia actually 3-2 in a late comeback. They were down 2-0 until the last 20 minutes of the game. And then Molly Swift, Rami Noel, and Sage Glover came together to put 3 on the board. That's actually the second top 25 win of this year, and they've won 4 out of their last 5 matches against ranked opponents. So, I mean, we had Taylor Dobless in here the other day on Up and In with Anthony, and she was talking about this team, how it's a really young team, but they have the power to do some great things. They were working on turning things around, kind of getting started right out the gate in these games. They didn't quite do that last night, but I mean, they made up for it in that last 20 minutes and came out with the dub. So proud of you girls, way to turn it around. Love to see another SEC win. Switching over to baseball, D1 baseball top 100 2024 college prospects list was released, and the LSU Tigers have 5 guys on that list. I mean, you're coming off of a historic year. Not only do you win the Natty, but you have 13 guys drafted. That is a monumental number. That is never happened before for LSU. And I think to have 5 more guys predicted to go this year just speaks to what Jay Johnson is doing with this program. You saw a lot of these guys leave. 13 of them went to the draft. They're going to play pro ball. So you're looking to, I wouldn't say rebuild. I think you're just kind of shuffling in the same kind of guys you had on the team. These dogs, they're ready to play. You've got Tommy White listed at number 7 on this list. You knew he was going to be high. Luke Holman, the right-handed pitcher transfer from Alabama, is at number 12. Thatcher Hurd at number 25. Paxton Kling at number 50. You'll see more of him this year for sure. And then Gage Jump at 62, another transfer, left-handed pitcher from UCLA. So a lot of your pitchers are out. You're looking for guys to come in to stabilize that pitching staff. I think you found some guys to do it. I mean, 2 of them that you brought in are on the top 100 college prospects list. So good job by Jay Johnson. We knew he was right into the next season. As soon as Omaha ended, they won the Natty, and he was back to work in the transfer portal, making sure that this team is ready to go and hopefully gets back to Omaha this year. The last little news bit I will give you before we break for this Arkansas LSU preview. Kim Mulkey just signed a check. She got her bag. I mean, she's making a lot of money, but now she's been immortalized in Ruston. She went to Louisiana Tech, and they unveiled her statue on Wednesday night. They just built the Sarah and A.L. Williams Champions Plaza and put a whole bunch of statues of really good Louisiana Tech athletes there. She was one of them, as well as Terry Bradshaw, Fred Dean, Carl Malone, Willie Rofe, and Teresa Weatherspoon. All of their statues were unveiled on Wednesday night. And just to give you a little glimpse, I know we talk about Kim Mulkey being like the GOAT, but like this is not news. Like she's the GOAT here, but she's been the GOAT. I mean, back to when she was playing at Tech. During her time in Ruston, as a player, she went 130 for 6. She won the 1981 AIAW championship, won the 1982 inaugural NCAA championship, and was an All-American. And then as an assistant coach, she went 430 and 68, advanced to 7 Final Fours, and won the 1988 NCAA championship. Yes, pay her her money, build her her statue. You guys did exactly what you were supposed to. Kim Mulkey is different. I mean, she changed the game at Tech when she was a player. She saw a lot of success as a coach, and now she's translating that to LSU. And I know people are psyched to have her here. She's completely revamped the women's basketball program, along with the players on the team, but she's done a lot for not only the women's basketball program, but for LSU athletics entirely. Okay. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have really cool guests on the couch, and we're going to chop it up about football. You ready, Joe? See you in a sec. Okay, we're back. We're ready. I just broke my bracelet. That's great. Right before he put the camera on. Okay. Yeah, so I said it's going to bug me. I'm just going to take it off. We have some really cool guests on this purple couch. This is the first time we're doing the whole purple couch thing. I guess you could say a guest picker and an analyst here. This is so cool. This is super new. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys the floor. I don't know how y'all want to take turns, rock, paper. Okay, Bryce, you go first. So introduce yourselves. Let everybody know who you are, why you're here, I guess, why I decided that I wanted you on this show.
Yeah. Bryce Koon, LSU for 24/7 Sports. We were just talking before. I mean, this weekend's going to be my first real game inside Tiger Stadium, which I'm pumped for. So I'm from Atlanta.
Okay.
So we don't have to get into, like, what teams I cheer for.
Yeah.
We don't do all that.
We're going to leave that one in there.
Yeah. I burned a lot of red and black before I came down here. That's cool. But yeah, no. So I'm pumped. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, yeah, this is going to be a big game, rivalry game. You know, they moved this one up earlier in the year, and I know it's going to be kind of fun. Like, everything that I saw during the Grambling game, everyone tells me it's just going to be turned up a notch. Like, from the
100%.
Tailgating, from pregame, like, it's just going to be nuts. So I've never experienced it. And it's gonna be fun, but yeah. So I'm from Atlanta. Literally moved to Louisiana 3 months ago.
Holy
so I'm like
cow.
brand new. I never stepped foot in Louisiana until we moved.
Well, I tell you what, based on how the conversation goes today, then I'll know if you're in it for the long haul and you're here to stay.
Yeah. If I need to just go ahead and pack up and move back.
Yeah, because right now, like, we started off cool. We had a great conversation offset.
Yeah.
Here we are.
You got me some free tickets and everything.
Yeah.
So,
let's keep building on this thing strong. Let's do this the right way. Let's do this the right way.
Fine. We're cool.
Okay, Trey, you're talking a lot. You got to tell everybody who you are.
My name is Trey Gallman, former LSU football player. Now, country music artist. A lot of people just say I'm the goofball on the microphone, Exhibit A. Here we are. So I'm here to have some fun and chop up some LSU sports. It's been a long time since I've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I mean, again, two very different perspectives, but I think that's what makes it fun. You get to see a little bit of everything on this show. You got a girl who's just kind of putting out there what she reads on the internet, right? Then an analyst, a country musician, and then my producer, Joe, who...
It's Joe.
It's me.
I don't even, yeah, it's Joe.
You need to give yourself more credit, though. You're not just saying what
I
you read
do
on the
study a
internet.
lot. I know. Okay, so preview this game. Arkansas is 2-1. They have not played an SEC game yet this season. They're coming off a loss to BYU, 38-31. That they really hurt themselves in. They were penalized 14 times for 125 yards. KJ Jefferson had a pick. He's been doing well, but he had a pick. The O-line didn't do him any help. He was sacked 3 times, and he had 2 fumbles. Both came in the fourth quarter. So couldn't finish out that game, lost momentum, couldn't figure it out. BYU came out on top. They do have the #1 rush defense in the SEC. I think they're 5th in the country, I believe. They've allowed less than 300 rushing yards all season, and they allow an average of 1.7 yards per carry. LSU, 2-1. They're 1-0 in SEC, had that beautiful win over Mississippi State last week. You saw Jayden Daniels and Malik Nabers just come together and put on a beautiful performance, firing on all cylinders, #3 rush offense in the SEC. So I think that's a matchup that we're going to be looking to see who kind of wins that battle on Saturday. Kickoff at 6, and LSU currently leads the all-time series 43-23-2. All right, I'm going to tee it up for you guys, and we're just going to chop it up. Bryce, what do we need to see from LSU to lock in another SEC win?
Yeah, I mean, I was in the building last week against Mississippi State, and, you know, they made it very quiet very early. And I think getting off to a fast start, like, that has to be imperative. Because you mentioned right there, like, about Arkansas, like, I don't think that offensively they're going to be able to do a lot of things, like, down the field against you. But if you let them hang around, this is a gritty, tough team, and they've always kind of been like that. Like, I mean, they've always been a team that's, like, really gritty, tough. If you let them hang around, they'll sneak up on you. I think it's so important for LSU to get off to a big start, and, you know, the confidence that Daniels built. Like, I don't know how much y'all have talked about it, but, like, our message boards are at 24/7 Sports. It's continuously Jayden Daniels is not good enough. You know, that's been the conversation. You know, where is Nuss? Like, where's Nuss? And for me, coming from the outside, not having watched really a lot of last season, it's been one of those things where, like, Daniels obviously has the ability. I think it's, like, been in between the years for him to be able to go down the field. So if they start off hot and he gets a lot of confidence, we were joking earlier, that 17-point spread makes me really nervous. But you can kind of see the path of how they could get there. Right. So I think that the biggest key is they got to start off fast offensively, because if they start slow, let Arkansas hang around, it could come into a dogfight. Absolutely.
I think exactly what you said. We've seen his confidence build. It started in that Grambling game. We saw it last week. If that momentum can carry over and they can take advantage of Arkansas secondary, I think A 17.5-point spread is a lot, but
Yeah.
I
It's a big
think
one.
you're right. I think if they can get it going early, it's not out the question.
Yeah.
Where can Arkansas capitalize, though?
I mean, look, you mentioned earlier the front seven. Like, they've got 9 upperclassmen. Like, that's a ton of experience, and experience matters in the SEC, especially when you're playing on the road. So, it's going to be a hostile environment. I think that if they can't get the run game going, and Arkansas says we're going to make Jayden beat us with his arm, that's kind of what teams are going to want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you play press man against Malik Nabers, you're going to have a similar result to what you
You're
did
gonna have a
last
long
week.
day.
Like, it's going to be a long day. Mississippi State just kept doing that, and
Yeah.
Nabers joked, he goes, I don't know why they kept doing that
Right.
post game. So I think that's kind of where Arkansas is going to have to lean. Like, you're going to have to win an ugly one. I don't think Arkansas is explosive enough offensively. You're going to have to force turnovers. I believe Arkansas is like top 10 in turnover margin. They've forced 7. They've only had 2, the 2 you mentioned against BYU. Other than that, I mean, I just think that Sam Pittman's style of play, how they want to do it, it's going to be physical, it's going to be gritty, and they want to make it an ugly game where LSU wants the flash. They want to be able to kind of flash their way to a win.
Yeah, they definitely want to do that. I agree with that. But at the same time, I'm a trenches guy. Like, my mindset on it. So what I want to see LSU do, and I agree that the offense does have to come out and they do have to put up points, and LSU has to do what LSU does. But I think that you might see a different side of Arkansas in that they might try, after the show you just saw put on last week, let's play devil's advocate here for a minute.
Yeah.
Maybe Arkansas is overconfident in that rush defense that they have. They sell out on stopping the pass. My thought process, what I want to see is I want to see LSU run the ball. I want to see them play old school football. We saw that, yes, we want to continue to see Jayden Daniels develop. We want to continue to see him make plays. But at the end of the day, the way I see it is I want to see LSU run football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that goes for a lot of the LSU fan base. I want to see what our offensive line and our run game is going to do against the
Right.
number 1 rush defense. And that's going to, the trenches is what's going to take us the long haul for the rest of the season. So that's what I'm most excited to watch.
Well, you got so many good names, too. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
we talked about Emory Jones, Will Campbell. Campbell really didn't have his best game
No, he didn't.
against Mississippi State, and I think that was kind of uncharacteristic. Kelly said on Monday, it was either Monday or Saturday after the game, he's like, look, I haven't had to have a conversation like that with Will, and he's
Right.
been here for a year to almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So that being said, you go to the run game, we've seen glimpses of Logan Diggs. Like, I love the makeup of this kid, first off,
Right.
off the field, what he can do, and then who doesn't want to watch more of Kaleb Jackson?
Oh,
Like,
my
that's something
gosh,
too.
man.
And
Electric.
Kelly said, like, he's not ready necessarily to be the guy because he hasn't played football, which is kind of scary. Like, he didn't play
Right.
football all 4 years of high school. But you mentioned all the guys that they have. Like, if they establish the run, I think you go into next week, which I think is going to be just an unreal atmosphere in Oxford.
Yeah.
You go
Absolutely.
into next week feeling really good because now you've got
Right.
the balance. If Jayden's the leading rusher in this game, it'd be nitpicky if they still win, but I would kind of still be disappointed.
Yeah, I agree. I think especially like you said, there's playmakers that the ball needs to be in their hands.
Yeah.
There's only so many games when we're going to be able to get the ball in Malik Nabers' hands.
Yeah.
When you get down the road to these higher profile games, they're going to do what they have to do to stop Jayden and to stop Malik.
Yeah.
So I want to see the ball in Chris Jackson's hands. Or I want to see him making plays. I want to see all these guys getting their touches. I want to see the thing start. I want to see this offense start to develop, because against Florida State, it's not obviously not what you wanted to see. Grambling wasn't much of a test. Okay, first SEC opponent last week. We throw the ball great, but there was a lot of improvement to be made.
Yeah.
So Brian Kelly, being the coach that Brian Kelly is, let's be nitpicky.
Yeah.
Let's be nitpicky.
Because this is a game you can afford that. You kind of
Exactly.
feel like it. I mean, you
'Cause-
can't go into next week not knowing a lot about your
But
run.
but once again, let me be the devil's advocate here and say, just because I've been in the game and I've been a part of that, because of the boot, because of this rivalry, Arkansas is going to come in playing so hard.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that it doesn't matter back when it was a late season game, it didn't matter if they were 10-0 or 0-10 going into that game. It was going to be a dogfight.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying 100% I want to see the run game get established, because of the fact that Arkansas is going to come out so hard, and I want to see them strike. I want to see LSU strike early, strike often, and not let them up. Because if you give Arkansas a chance to play football, Arkansas can play football. Let's not forget
They're
this
talented.
is an SEC West opponent. This is not just another just a lollipop game on the schedule.
Yeah.
This is a ball club.
Yeah. You can't overlook it going into Ole Miss.
Absolutely.
by any
Absolutely
means.
not.
Yeah.
We'll table the next week because I have a question for y'all about
Yeah.
next week. But the defensive side of things. Omar Spates is doubtful, meaning Whit Weeks, Greg Penn.
Yeah.
Have they solidified their spot there, or what do you need to see from the defense this week in order to do that?
Yeah, so I actually asked Kelly the question about this, and,
Okay.
and the great person that Brian Kelly is and the politician that he is and how he answered was hilarious. I asked him specifically about Whit Weeks, and he proceeded to tell me that, like, Greg Penn is the guy that has to be there.
Okay.
Like, the rotation that they've found is it's got to be, first off, Harold Perkins down on the edge. Like, you can't afford to move him anywhere else right now, just how good he is. Penn's been the guy that they're going to kind of have that linchpin spot at one of the linebacker spots. The other one, until Omar Spates was kind of deemed doubtful for this game, it was going to be a combination between Spates and Weeks. Once again, me being a Georgia guy, I got the chance to watch Weeks in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what he did on the field in high school is what he showed against Mississippi State. Just a see-ball, get-ball type of linebacker, a guy that is, in my opinion, like, still needs to learn, you know, and you could probably help with this, like being able to learn how to play college football and all the intricacies that go along with that.
Right.
But he's so athletic, he can make up for some of those things.
Sure. I mean, the biggest thing is, like you said, see ball, get ball. The instincts are there. He's a great player. Want to see him to continue to play. The biggest change in that you saw, I was impressed with coming in and playing against Mississippi State, is that he seemed the game didn't seem too fast for him.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know, and that was really cool to see. So I'm excited to watch that continue to develop.
Yeah.
You know you can weigh in, Joe, right? He looks like he wants to say something and he just
Speak
doesn't.
your mind.
Go ahead, Joe.
What's up?
Yeah, for me, one of my favorite things about Whit Weeks, specifically as a freshman, is yes, he sees ball, he gets ball. Yes, the game's not too fast for him, but he's mature enough in only his first couple games to be patient. Like we ran a lot of delayed blitzes against Mississippi State last week, and his timing on those was beautiful. He looked like a junior.
Yeah. You mentioned it. You can't teach the instincts. Like, that's just something you notice. And we kind of noticed it in fall camp just with, like, his sideline-to-sideline speed, the way he made plays. And then Kelly kind of affirmed that last night in his presser. He was like, look, the kid just – like, he just plays ball. And there's some guys that can just play ball really well. Now, that's not to say that this kid is not smart or anything
Yeah, we're
like
not
that.
saying he doesn't have it between the ears.
But he's going to continue to learn, and it's kind of scary, I think, for opposing teams to know that. And, look, Omar Spates, I wanted to say this about Spates, like, veteran player, a guy that was really, really successful in the Pac-12. Now, the Pac 1.5. Whatever it is now. That being said, like, he was really good at Oregon State. I don't feel, kind of going back and looking at some of the film, that it's really translated for him yet at the SEC level. I mean, they played Florida State, and he didn't play bad necessarily. He looked a little slow at times in that sense. And I think they're two different players. I want to say that too.
Yeah, they are, absolutely. And look, that's just – when you talk about the standard of what LSU is, and you look at the pedigree of linebacker that has come through LSU, it's not that any of the guys we're talking about are bad players. It's just we're so used to having the stud, right?
The elite of the elite.
The elite of the elite. Okay, you've got Harold Perkins that's going to be a baller, but he needs to be on the edge.
Yeah.
So, therefore, that doesn't – like you – yes, he is still a linebacker, but you don't feel like he's in that middle of the field presence. And that's what you want to see, is one of these guys step up and just own it.
Yeah.
Like, we can sit here all day and talk about the fact that, you know, we can be a defense by committee, and we can put up, you know, we can be a solid team, and we can put up the stats to be a good ball club. But LSU there's always been a dude.
Yeah.
We want to see someone step up and be the dude.
Watching from afar, and I'm sure we might talk about this, but it kind of goes into the secondary as well. Like, being an SEC
Perfect.
fan.
You segued right into
Well, look,
yeah.
I say, like,
You guys
being a
just keep
fan of,
going.
like, SEC football, LSU has always seemed as the team that's like, they've got great players, but then they've got those just dudes,
Right.
like you mentioned. And I feel like they don't. Well, I feel like they don't have that, like, especially in the secondary. Now, look, Denver Harris can be that dude. Does he have, you know, the mental fortitude to be able to stay calm? He did against Grambling when that guy tried to swing at him,
Yeah.
and Harris just stared at him, which I absolutely loved, because that shows, like, the mental progression of him as a player and understanding. And Kelly's kind of hinted at that. But, you know, Perkins is that guy. I think we're still waiting for Perkins to have that game this season. I think it could be. You know, one of the things that I actually talked about on our podcast the other day was that front seven-wise, like, you have a really good chance against an offensive line that has really struggled.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know, KJ Jefferson does a really good job of stepping up in the pocket. Okay, so that's great. But when you got Mekhi Wingo and Mason Smith pushing the interior,
There is no.
So
pocket.
what does that mean now? Okay, if that's not there and he tries to roll out, well, now there's Harold Perkins.
Exactly.
There's Savion Jones. There's Deshaun Womack. I mean, there's all of these guys. It could be scary, but they still need that guy. Perkins is obviously that, but man, the back end really need someone to step up.
Yeah, and I think I think you alluded to it a little bit. At the end of the day, the front seven does dictate the game, but what we need to see the defensive line continue to do, and what we need to see these linebackers, exactly what you were talking about, getting the pressure on the quarterback. How does a good defense cover up a not stellar secondary?
Yeah.
They get pressure on the quarterback the way the quarterback doesn't have time to pick that defense
Yep.
apart. So the leadership in that front seven has to own it. If LSU is going to have a chance of being an elite defense this year, then maybe it is a full squad thing. Maybe we have one or two guys step up and be dudes, but they have to take that role on together as a unit. That, hey, just because we're not stacked in the back end and we can't put Stingley one-on-one in coverage or you can just go down the laundry list of DBU, right?
Yeah.
We can't just leave these guys. They've got to play some zone. We've got to spread this thing out a little bit. We've got to get to the quarterback and do not give him time to get comfortable.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you're good.
I have a question that I want to. You mentioned next week. So by the time of kickoff this week, we will know whether Ole Miss beats Bama.
Yeah.
If Ole Miss does, in fact, beat Alabama, is that something that creeps into your mind as a player? Are you thinking, I know we talk about the one-game mentality, like let's not get ahead of ourselves, but realistically, you face Ole Miss next week. They just beat Bama. Is that something that kind of creeps into your head?
As a former player, it's one of those, like the first thought, the thought is never Ole Miss beat Bama. The thought from my end, looking at like what Bama's doing this year, the immediate thought would be like, man, Bama just ain't the same. Talking as a player, like, oh man, maybe Bama is down a bit. Not Ole Miss is that good, but it's because as a player, like as a former player, you're looking at Bama not putting up. They lose to Texas. They don't have they have an abysmal week last week, and then if they lose to Ole Miss, you don't give Ole Miss credit for being like, all right, let's go ahead and get ready to play Ole Miss.
Right.
Because we're about, like, you still have to play Arkansas. It's the thought of like, man, maybe Bama is down this year. That's where my head would be on that.
Yeah, as a former Division III baseball player, I didn't really look at it. No, I'm just kidding. But in seriousness, like, I think that, like, Ole Miss has some things to them that work. Like, we know Lane Kiffin's a great offensive mind.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Dart, I don't want to crown him as, like, he's officially taken that leap, but he looks good. But, they've played Georgia Tech, which shout out Georgia Tech. That's where I came from. So
Okay.
I love those guys. Love those guys. But, they played Georgia Tech. We know that's not a really formidable opponent in that sense. They played Tulane, which they kind of messed around for a little bit too much and then pulled away. Tulane's a solid program.
I mean, Tulane,
obviously.
Tulane gave
good.
them everything they
And Tulane
wanted.
didn't even have their starting quarterback.
And that
played a big role. So I think Ole Miss is solid, but I do agree with you. Like, how it's got to appear at some point. You kind of got to think about it. Like, these guys this week are like thinking, because I'm not a player, but I'm thinking when I go up there next week, good chance if both teams win this weekend, College game day might hit up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this
Right.
is going to be a top 15
Yep.
matchup if these two teams win.
Right.
Ole Miss brings a lot to the table. I do think, like you said, though, if the same message that you've preached here about Arkansas, if that's being preached inside that locker room with not necessarily Kelly, but, guys like Frank Wilson that have been around the program.
Oh, absolutely.
They
Frank
understand.
is harping it.
Yeah.
I promise you, Coach Frank is harping it.
Having that, I don't think they're going to be overlooking Arkansas by any means. Like, I think that they
Right.
understand what's at stake. But, it is kind of hard as a player not to think about what's going to be like to play prime time, potentially, big game against Ole Miss.
Well, it's yeah. But
You're excited. I would imagine you're excited.
You'd be excited, but I'm telling you that it's like you brought up a great point with Coach Frank. They are drilling. The coaches are drilling into their head as they're walking into meetings today that do not overlook this game, do not overlook this opponent, as you never should, like you said, week by week.
Right.
But it's the idea of there was times that in the past. And Ole Miss is always a sleeper game for Bama.
Oh, yeah.
Always. So now we're talking about a game that's a real game because Ole Miss is a highly touted program. And they've got a great season. They've got a lot of things going the right way for them. So, yeah, we're on the outside looking in going, this could be a primetime game. But in the past when Ole Miss was losing and Bama was winning national championships, Ole Miss was still upsetting Bama anyway.
Yeah.
So they're not in that locker room thinking about it being a primetime game. Maybe the younger guys. that don't understand it yet. You know, maybe some of these younger players that aren't playing yet or that are playing small parts, maybe they're thinking about it because they're not, mature and locked in, and they don't have that mental yet. But once you're in it, it's a week by week thing, and everybody understands that. It's like the NFL. You don't know, you have no idea what's coming every single week.
What's the feel in the locker room this week? Like for this rivalry, you're fighting for the boot. I know it's a huge thing to have the whole trophy and whatever, but
Right.
What's the feel? You're coming off a big win. Like we said, you don't want to get ahead of yourself, but what is the locker room culture like this week? For this game specifically.
The locker room culture, there's two sides of it. And I can't speak, I didn't play under Kelly. Right? I can speak for being under Miles, and I can speak for being under Coach O. And there's, first and foremost, the pride and tradition of LSU. This is a rivalry game. Keep the boot stays. The boot never leaves. If we have to go get the boot, we go get the boot, but the boot stays at home. It's a thing. But it's also at the same time, year in and year out, you'll see that flip side, the other side of that coin is like Arkansas is viewed as that opponent that's like, man, if we play around with these dudes, just like Mississippi State.
Yeah.
The one thing we always said when we went to Mississippi State was, dude, make them stop ringing them cowbells. turn the cowbells off in the first quarter. Turn them off as soon as possible.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with Arkansas. Like you said, come out, strike quick, strike often, and put it to bed, and let's get to work. That's it. I'll
add this too. I don't think that LSU is going to be overlooking anyone because I think the staff is drilling it so hard. But it's because I don't think being on the sideline as they were getting ready to run out in Orlando against Florida State, I do think that they underestimated Florida State.
Oh,
I think.
of course.
I mean, I did.
We all did.
We all did.
Absolutely.
Florida State is a playoff caliber team.
Absolutely.
Now they had struggled against BC last weekend, but every single team every year
They've
kind
got
of
a
has a
sleeper
game
week.
like that. It's really hard to go undefeated.
There's always that week. There's always that 1 week in the season where you see the upsets and all the really close games. I feel like that's usually like week 7, week 8. I feel like that might have been week 3 this year.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
I think
weird.
it happened earlier.
So that being said, I think that they did that. They know that there's really not room for error, after losing week 1. And you saw what happened against a really, really good team when you overlooked them. I mean, they just dominated you. Right? I had never seen LSU get dominated like that physically, at the point of attack. That being said, I don't think Arkansas can do that to you necessarily. But like y'all mentioned, the Mississippi States, the Arkansas of the world, you go over the SEC East, teams like a Kentucky, like these teams that they don't may have the same talent level, but man, they're going to make up for it in the way they play, the passion they play with. I don't think they overlook them. I think that's being drilled so much into this team after what happened in week 1.
So I can say this from the coaching staff standpoint. Coach Frank having the background of being the recruiting coordinator and everything, and he was my coach for a small stint before he went to UTSA, was that the reason these guys play LSU so hard is not just because of the standard that LSU has created, and it's not just because we're at the top and they want to knock – these guys that are playing ball for Ole Miss, for Mississippi State, for Arkansas, they were guys that were turned down by. They're Louisiana boys that LSU didn't want.
And that's a big. I've been in 3 months and I've already realized that's a big deal.
That's a big deal. So these guys, that's that little bit more edge that they come in with every single year. That if you give them an opportunity, they will take a mile.
Yeah. I mean, Mississippi State had a couple guys on the roster that was kind of a big talking point with them. That
Exactly.
are from Louisiana, felt slighted, and obviously didn't work out for them. But, I think this is going to be a fun game to watch.
I'm excited.
All right, well, score predictions. I know there's a 17.5-point spread.
You go first.
I don't.
I can go first because I just had to make my prediction the other day if you want me to.
All right, I would love to hear yours.
Okay, so 17 points scares me.
Yeah, no.
It's a conference opponent. I get that on paper, Arkansas looks bad offensively. Offensive line's not very good. We talked about what the defense could do, getting pressure up front. I had this one, though, 33-21. That's where I said I think Arkansas – and I think it's 33-14 with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I think LSU's able to kind of stretch that lead out in the second half. Then I think Arkansas gets a garbage time touchdown. So I don't have them covering that spread. Look, if they do, we'll all be really excited. And that means a lot. But I think that this is going to be one of those games where first, second quarter, Arkansas is really fighting, and then just kind of the depth kind of wears on them with what they're kind of unable to do against LSU.
I agree with part of that. If I want to if in a perfect world where all the things we talked about happened, and you see them strike early, strike often, and then you see the run game get established, what scares me is I think LSU comes out hard. I think we put up 14 early on them. I think we'll start here. I think final score, I'm going to go like 34-24.
Okay.
Because I'm going 34-24 because LSU's going to come out hot, but I think there might be a little bit of lull in there.
Yeah.
And I think Arkansas is going to fight back a little bit. But where I want to see, and this is what I mean by the run game, get established that second half. Maybe Arkansas scores a couple touchdowns, they get back into the game, but LSU controls the clock, runs the ball, asserts their dominating as far as that we hadn't talked about. I don't know how we missed it, but the idea that this is the first SEC home game night in Tiger Stadium.
And you've never you
I don't even know what
we're
to
talking
expect.
about.
There is a different level of energy that comes from that locker room, that comes from that stadium, that you can feel on the field. So I want to see these guys step up in that moment and be in it and just absolutely play LSU football is what I want to see.
I've heard people even this week compare or say that an SEC matchup at night is better than the Super Bowl. I've heard multiple people say that.
And that's what SVP said.
I mean,
right? Didn't he say it was the best sports environment he's ever experienced?
I would say, because the Super Bowl is more for like your big wigs, like your big money folks.
Yeah.
Touche.
You know what I mean? Like
it's
it's more of like a big sponsorship event
Right.
for a full 60 minutes. You know, I think so. I agree to your point. Like having gone to a couple SEC games, like a night game, I imagine it's going to be a night game, hopefully, in Bryant-Denny, like at Alabama, LSU. Alabama's going to be absolutely nuts there.
Yeah.
You know, I've been to games in Athens, you know, night games there. That's been really fun. I was at the 2012 LSU Georgia game. I hate to bring that up. It's okay.
It's okay. It was a good game.
But it was a really, you know,
I wasn't on I was still a fan at that point.
You're
so
talking about like just atmosphere-wise.
Yeah.
Yes.
The only atmosphere that rivals it, and it's going to be happening Saturday night, is, in my opinion, and I've been one time, whiteout game in Happy Valley.
That's a bucket list for me.
That's
100%
from people I've talked to who have been, they said like going to SEC games and then going to that, it's about as close as you can get to like Tiger Stadium or anywhere else in the SEC.
Definitely bucket list for me.
Yeah, that's what
100%.
I think so too. Okay, well, we do a segment called Tiger Tea. And at the end of each show, we share like a little snippet of tea. We spill some tea on LSU athletes or previous athletes, what they're doing off the field. So we talk about Angel Reese and Livy Dunn and all of them a lot. But today, I know we have Arkansas this week, but I heard that we want Bama, Trey. So our Tiger Tea today, Mr. Trey Gallman, you want to share with everybody what you're doing right now?
October 21st, we have a new song coming out. It'll be the first song I've released this year. It's called We Want Bama. It's going to be kind of an introduction into this new album that we're working on. So really excited for that one. And, yeah. You caught me off guard.
I know I did. I didn't want to
All
tell
right.
you. I know. See, that's really cool. He's actually playing at the Texas Club tonight. So if
Yes.
you're local,
It'll actually be our first time playing it live. So yeah, we'll
you'll
have
get
it in the
to
set
see
list.
it,
That's
right?
going to be fun.
unreleased,
fun.
you'll get to hear it. So swing by the Texas Club, come see him tonight. I appreciate both of you. This was awesome. This is
a lot of fun.
exactly
Yes,
what I was
thank you for
looking
having
for.
us.
I think just having two totally different perspectives was great content, and you got a lot of different information that you really didn't get anywhere else. So I appreciate both of you. I know Bryce will have on a couple more times throughout the season if you're cool with it.
I'm fine with that, yeah.
Okay. And
Sounds
Trey,
good.
unfortunately, lives in Nashville but travels all over the country playing awesome
I'm definitely
music.
just going to be tuning in though.
Maybe we'll
tuning in.
get some
We'll
sort
have
of
to
like
get you,
video
like,
call.
calling in.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Put a little
Zoom
iPad
call.
right here. Like,
Yeah,
you
just
can
set me
sit right
up.
next to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm here for it.
We'll
I'm here
set the
for it.
screen on the couch and
Yeah.
have him call in.
I'm
and
here
get
for it.
some
There we
crazy
go.
guest picks. But yeah, I appreciate both of you. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. Joe for the hard work and getting this live show up. First one with guests on the purple couch.
Hey, I'm a fan of the purple couch.
This
I
is
was a little
freaking
skeptical
sick.
when we picked it up and we had it up here. It's like, I don't know what's going on, but
I
I'm
didn't
a
know
fan
if
of
both
the
of us were
couch.
going to fit on the couch. And that's what I'm glad about. Like, we're not just like smushed up next to
No,
each
this
other.
is
I
a
think
this
y'all
is a
look
great
good up
couch.
there.
We're good.
This is
We're
I love
awesome.
what we have
gotta
going
get a
on.
picture of y'all up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will be back. Actually, we've got a Valley Vision game day vlog being filmed tomorrow. So we'll be out there with the camera, got a new mic. I think we've got some guests coming with us. So if you want us to swing by, get some content of you tailgating, hit the DMs. We'll pop by and get some interviews and maybe shotgun a beer or two. We appreciate y'all. We'll see y'all soon.